Hello everyone, welcome to our session for our U Online Learning Conference 2026. We are Connect STEM and the title of our presentation is Building a Virtual Faculty Community of Practice for Evidence-Based Teaching. My name is Sheila Tabanli. I'm an associate teaching professor in the mathematics department, and my wonderful colleagues, Sharron Crane.
Hi, my name is Sharron Crane, and I'm an assistant teaching professor in the Department of Biochemistry and Microbiology.
Anna Kornienko.
Yeah, hi, my name is Anna Kornienko, and I'm associate teaching professor at the Chemistry and Chemical Biology Department.
Lyra Stein.
Hi, I'm Lyra Stein. I'm an associate teaching professor in the Department of Psychology.
And Monica Torres.
Hello, I'm Monica Torres, and I'm associate teaching professor in life science.
So thank you for being with us in this presentation. This is the abstract of our presentation. We are not going to read it because it is shared in the program. But basically, we have a wonderful faculty panel here who decided to join this virtual faculty community of practice. And we have a short history behind this community of practice. And as you just heard from us, we are all teaching faculty at various different departments and schools at Rutgers, New Brunswick. In this panel presentation, our faculty colleagues will share how empathy-informed and research-driven frameworks such as reducing research-to-practice gap and 3C instructional framework were translated into their practices without the depending on my implementation in mathematics. Our panelists will also share the lessons learned, the challenges encountered, and the strategies for fostering engagement, and what could we do at a micro level, at a faculty level, for a beautiful instructional change so we can help our students better. So the guiding principles behind Connect STEM is initially in 2021, during COVID times, I designed an interdisciplinary course, Math 125. The course is designed with the fundamentals from the research in cognitive science and social emotional learning. After this course, there is a faculty support group initiative. This is an NSF-funded project by our colleagues led by Dr. Mary Melike in the chemistry department. They opened up call for proposals for a community of practice. So I applied for it, and basically what I learned from my development of this course in how to help students to become effective math learners, it produced this RR2PG instructional framework that led to the one of the components of the RR2PG semester support group for faculty. As a part of the fellowship that I completed at Rutgers Tyler Clementi Center, I developed a 3C pedagogical model that is grounded in compassion, culturally relevant teaching. So when we combine this together, it enabled us to form this community of practice that is called Connect STEM. The course that I mentioned, as I verbally explained in the previous slide, I had some essential questions such as, there is a whole research behind how people learn effectively. There is also a whole research about how people can teach effectively. And as a former high school teacher and a supervisor, I noticed that when I transitioned to higher education teaching, that the pedagogical component or the professional development in teaching is something I missed. So I really appreciate all the resources that are provided to us to form this community of practice, as long as other opportunities given to teaching faculty like us, especially in a research-intensive institution such as Rutgers, New Brunswick. In addition to the cognitive science and what we can learn from the research behind how people learn effectively, the neuroscience behind it, as humans, we also have mindsets and attitudes towards mathematics. And especially not only in the US, as I started teaching in the global studies program, I'm also learning from my students that when it comes to mathematics, especially, since it is an abstract science, our students sometimes tend to stay away or they don't want to pursue math-related majors. This brings us to the issues in STEM recruitment and retention. And as we are all STEM or STEM adjacent faculty in this panel, in this group, we deeply care about issues when it comes to student attitudes and mindsets towards the disciplines that we love so dearly. So these are the guiding principles behind the course design. And from there, I developed this instructional framework. And in an in-person classroom setting, I see students during class, but there is a lot happening before and after their instruction. So this reducing research to practice gap in teaching framework is developed after extensive reading, as I will be sharing in the selected references of this panel, this presentation. After reading and analyzing research behind what could be applicable in a math teaching setting. So as you know, none of my peers are math professors because these evidence-based practices could be integrated in other disciplines as well. So again, here we are not going to talk about RR2PG, but this is the what we want students to do before, during, and after instruction. And as Rutgers has beautiful resources for faculty, there is the Research to Practice Fellowship. And as a part of this fellowship, I developed this 3C pedagogical model. So we recruited students to hear their voices. We also partnered up with the SAS EOF program at Rutgers, which is the largest EOF program in the state of New Jersey, to recruit students so we can learn from their experiences to see how we can adapt in our classroom practices. So this is based on what students want to see in their math classrooms. That is also applicable to other STEM fields. Judgment-free learning spaces, connections to real-life examples and curriculum, connections to with the peers and the instructions, and actually the curse of expertise that we may sometimes unintentionally bring to a teaching space is something that might be creating another gap or a barrier between the experts in the domain content knowledge, such as the teaching professors and the students who are the novices. So I wrote this guidebook. Again, I want to give a shout out to the Rutgers Tyler Clementi Center. And this is the QR code for those who wants to take a look at it. And here are the guiding questions for our presentation. What does it look like to engage in sustained virtual faculty development grounded in evidence-based teaching? So these are the questions that guided our faculty panelists to prepare their presentations. How did asynchronous assignments support implementation and reflection? What faculty actually tried, adapted, and struggled to implement? And what are the lessons learned, key takeaways from this panel? So now we really appreciate our faculty members to share their voice. We are going to start with Dr. Crane.
Excuse me. Hi. So my motivation for getting into this community of practice, other than the fact that my department chair recommended that I join it, was honestly the fact that I have some isolation where I work at different times than a lot of my colleagues do, even in my own department. And I don't get a whole lot of opportunity to interact in real time with other faculty members just because of the way that my schedule is. And so Over the past couple of years, I had been learning a lot about alternative grading practices and really wanting to start implementing them in most, if not all, of my courses. And so I had learned something about that. I had started implementing them. And when I first joined this community of practice, it was really nice to see that a lot of the things that I was already doing worked into these evidence-based practices that Sheila was teaching us about. And so one of the things that I'm doing in my introductory biochemistry laboratory, well, I'll get to that in a second, sorry. I have two courses, more now, but two that I wanted to talk about today. My introductory biochemistry lab course, which is juniors and seniors, where organic chemistry is a prerequisite. It's a typical 3-hour format. And when I think about these students, the main thing that I see with them is that there's a lot of stress over grades and performance. Many of them need my course to apply for medical school, PA school, and things like that. And so they really want to do well. Another course that I'm doing alternative grading in is contemporary issues in biochemistry. The population is a little bit different. They're all biochemistry majors, sophomores and juniors. It's a lecture and discussion course with some guest lectures built in. And what I see from these students is that there's transition anxiety and work-life balance challenges because their coursework is starting to get more challenging and they're starting to experience more things in their lives as well. So in introductory biochemistry lab, I use something called standards-based testing. And what that basically is I have standards that I tell the students right up front at the beginning of the semester. You can think of them as activity learning objectives, okay? So not super specific, but specific enough to one activity. And we have mistake-driven learning in that my students are able to take a quiz on one of the standards, and if they don't pass that quiz, they can take another one very similar the following week, or even the week after that. Or even after that, they can have a conversation with me and demonstrate to me that they understand the material. So basically, they could just keep practicing until they get it right. For students who are barely missing the mark, I allow for them to come and have a quick chat with me immediately so that I can clarify some of the concepts. And I don't know if you saw me a little bit distracted a moment ago. One of my students had come to my office hours to take one of my quizzes. So we can see this in action. I just put on the slide for you examples of a written standard that I have for the students, and it is math. Sheila will be happy about that. And we also do that for a practical as well. So we don't have a practical at the end of the semester. We do the practicals as we're doing the labs. So for the other course, Contemporary Issues in Biochemistry, I use something called specifications grading, which is basically I decide what I want the students to do in order to earn an A, B, C, or if they're happy with just passing, even a D. And what I noticed when I first joined the community of practice was that this specifications grading approach really does address all of the 3 C's in Sheila's framework. And so I see it as being compassionate because I allow students to kind of decide when they're going to be turning things in. Sometimes that backfires and things pile up on me, but I think it really works for them and allows them to maybe stress a little bit less about that work-life balance. I also allow alternative assignments for certain meetings that a student may have missed and they still want to be able to do the work associated with what we covered that day. I see this course as making connections for students. So I was already doing this before I did the alternative grading, but we bring in guest speakers so they can connect with other people in the discipline. We look at cases on the government website, the Office of Research Integrity. So they're making connections kind of to outside world situations. And they're also reading peer-reviewed papers, which of course is making connections within their discipline. and a community as well. Sorry, the community as well. Just again, I allow them to do a lot of group work with one another. We have an assignment, which is meeting with me. So they don't absolutely have to, but they can come and talk to me for office hours and let me ask them a couple of questions and earn a check off on one of their assignments for that. And so the bottom line with this is really just the fact that students are deciding on the grade that they wish to earn, and they're making sure that they meet the specifications for that grade. And so on the next slide is just an example. I know you don't know what these assignments are, but you can see that I have some low stakes assignments, some higher stakes assignments, some quizzes, some discussions, an end of the semester project. And the students can just look at that table at the beginning of the semester and say, hey, I'd like to earn this grade. And now I know exactly what I need to do in order to earn it. I do leave myself a little bit of flexibility for pluses, you know, like a C plus or a B plus. But overall, the students know exactly where they stand at every point during the semester, and they know what they need to do to improve if that's their goal. So thank you.
Hello, everybody. One more time. I'm from the chemistry department, and I enjoyed this group some time ago. Well, I work in industry and then I moved to teaching, and I really been looking for the group just to understand teaching in more details. Well, chemistry is not easy, and especially when it is for chemistry majors. And I've been teaching this class for analytical chemistry for about 2 years before I joined the group. And in the discussion with Sheila and other faculty members, I came up with two things that my course is really needed. The problem is the analytical chemistry course. It is a course which has a lab connected to it. I have lecture and then students go to the labs. Usually the labs was taken as a recipe. Okay, we mix two things, we get in that, and where we going, students never understood it. So I decided to use self-explanation when they need connect new information to prior knowledge, and they need to understand the reason why they're doing certain labs and certain steps in lab, as well as a critical thinking, which kind of conclusions they should come up with. Second part was difficult in analytical chemistry, that all tests are have open-ended questions, and students usually don't know how to answer them. So I decided to combine the self-explanation with practice testing when they will be given the conceptual or calculation open-ended questions, and they try to answer those questions. And well, that's the whole purpose, make them a good thinkers in chemistry. And what actually happened in the next step, I combine it, and now during my lecture, at the end of the lecture, after the primary discussion, I have active learning time when I prepare for students questions based on the experiment which they will do this week. The questions structured that they lead to the purpose of the experiment, and the students sit together in the groups and discuss those questions. I just move between the groups, and if something comes up, we can discuss it all together. So at this point, students start asking me questions, what they don't understand. I encourage them to do it. And all the questions are exam styles, all of them open-ended, and they need to write sentence or two or do some the calculations and have the conceptual reasoning and understand the development of the lab. Students complete it every week, and then they come to lab and they know what they're doing. They understand the purpose of their experiment. They understand what kind of data they should obtain during the experiment, or if they, and they know if they didn't obtain the expected values, then it was an error and they can analyze it. So that helped very much. And students actually feel more comfortable with labs and they more comfortable with the exams as well. They now can collaborate with each other. And that was great impact on their learning. That technique can be moved online or hybrid teaching because students can be put it in the breakout rooms and you can enter this room and see how what they discuss, what kind of questions came up in the discussion and lead this discussion. And also it can be used in the quizzes or exams online as well, because we can have open-ended questions for them and they are very comfortable how to answer them. Well, I think it was absolutely priceless experience. And thank you, Sheila, for inviting me to this group.
Hello, everyone. I am Lyra Stein from the Department of Psychology. So after we've returned to in-person learning after the pandemic, I went back to asking students multiple choice questions, and I realized that the research was showing they needed to elaborate on the concepts to really understand them. So I joined reducing the research to practice gap, and I wanted to implement elaborative interrogation into my courses. My courses are pretty large, but I felt I needed something else to make sure students were engaging with the material and that they had the groundwork to understand more advanced concepts. So in my psychopathology course, I decided to switch from just asking multiple choice questions to having students explain why they chose a certain answer. And this promotes critical thinking, it strengthens their memory. They can make associations that they couldn't make with multiple choice, and it encourages active engagement. So I decided to implement two methods into my large lecture courses. And these courses usually run anywhere from 250 to 350 students. Before the pandemic, I used closed questions, which were multiple choice. For example, what neurotransmitters released during exercise, and then the students would just have to click on an answer. I used Top Hat in class response system. And I didn't think they were getting much out of that. And looking at the research, they needed to actually think about the concept. So I decided to ask open-ended questions. Why might exercise improve mental health? And I encouraged discussion At the beginning of the semester, students are divided into groups of 6 members. They stay with those groups during the semester. And when I ask them open-ended questions, they consult with their groups or learning assistants. And this encourages students to go beyond simple recall. And given the research on elaborative interrogation, it actually makes them think about the concept. So we are moving from rote memorization to deep understanding of the concepts. And then I was a little ambitious and I said, I'm going to look into the research and try to include structured group discussions in my very large lecture courses. So this took a little bit of tweaking over the years, but I decided to use annotations. So each student independently reviews the assigned case studies. They independently complete a pre-group annotation on their own. And this gets them thinking about the concepts before they come in. And they are able to express their perspective that they are going to bring to the group. And on discussion days, they come in with that information that they've thought about, and they tackle real world scenarios, something that is applicable. So the course concepts are not vague, abstract, but they're saying, how would we apply it to this case? And they discuss the annotations, they apply these collective perspectives to develop different approaches to the case studies. And they focus on elaborative interrogation. They synthesize these diverse viewpoints. And this aligns with the research that to enhance actual learning, they should think deeply about the subject and then discuss it with other people to understand how it connects to real life scenarios. So this also includes in-person communication, which I found after the pandemic was lacking in many students. And it takes them a while to get used to doing this because their usual mode of communication with each other is virtual. So this emphasizes the role of effective communication skills, active listening to other students. They will have to learn how to clearly articulate the ideas and take constructive feedback from their classmates. Each student takes on a leadership role for each discussion, and the students leave anonymous feedback for the leader so the leader can improve their skills. So we have the students building skills that will be applicable after graduation. And also Sheila's group had me focused on learning emotional intelligence, encouraging students to recognize and respect the emotional cues and responses of the other students in their group. And I always give meta-analytical, meta-cognitive questions. How did you feel? How did the other students affect your understanding of the concepts and how you articulated them to the group as a whole? And this was crucial for maintaining group cohesion. And the outcomes have been very favorable. So thank you, Sheila.
Hello again, I'm Monica Torres from the Division of Life Science, and I will say that my motivation to participate in Connect STEM was intentional. I was looking for a community of practice to share experience and learn from the group. And this is what I found. I found a community that it helped me to keep growing in teaching, because when you are 100% teaching, sometimes you may end up a little bit isolated. So having a community of practice is really, a very good experience. So I'm the instructor for the undergraduate level course, Biological Research Laboratory course. This is a 100 level. This is a large enrollment course that has 3 components: lecture, labs, and TA preparation. So each of the components offer challenges and opportunities to translate research-driven frameworks and try to implement new practices. Some of these challenges are specific to the discipline that is biology, but there are other challenges that are more general. And the challenge that I was dealing with fostering participation and engagement in a large enrollment lecture. And this is the picture that we have here. This is ARC 103. So it can hold up to 500 students. So this is a setting that you have to implement different activities constantly to keep the engagement of the students. So I'm going to focus on some of the strategies that I implemented, and I feel that there is good engagement and good response from the students. So the lecture component of my course is where the concepts are presented, but it's also the setting to work on understanding the lab work using original data from previous labs that I bring to the classroom, and posing open questions that are intended to provoke discussion and reflection in the students. So one of the examples that I implemented was I present data and graphs from data collected from lab work in the previous week. And instead of posing questions directly about what, the exact numbers, the students have to discuss with a pair or a team with which group they would like to work the following week. And then they have to discuss why they are making this decision. So it's a little bit bringing a little bit of game into the process of critical thinking, class participation, discussion, and also the fact that after we have a system to vote with which team they are going to work the following week, it's about the reflection and giving tips to the team that didn't work that well based on the numbers. What are the tips for improvement? What things went wrong? And what are the skills that they practice during this exercise? So it's not only, of course, it's always during the entire class, we focus on what are the research skills, but also transferable skills is something that I bring all the time to the lecture. So lecture is also the ideal scenario to show real world connections by offering personal experience from myself doing research, and the importance of practice, right? And don't be afraid of failure, because practice is very important when you are looking for having research skills. So in order to offer students relatable experience, one example that I implement in the lecture is in the news segment. And I find out that there are so many things that I can bring, sometimes things that are happening the same week that I can grab from the news and relate to the lecture that I'm doing during the week. right? So, for example, this was a lecture about the freshwater environment, and we have this, it's always some type of local news, and this helps students to make a connection with the real world and the importance of what they are learning, right? And also help with science communication, because they can explain what is the science behind this type of simple news in general that I bring to the lecture. So I find out that this is something that is working very well with the engagement. So another example that I implemented at the end of the semester is a career readiness seminar that bring to the classroom representatives from local industries and also the Department of Labor. I offer a panel with different people representing different industries that they start by talking and explaining their own experience and the skills that they use the most in everyday in their jobs, right? And also they offer their personal perspective about how they learn these skills and how these connect to the research that the students are doing in the course. After that, we open the floor for students to be able to ask questions about research skills, about what are the research skills or transferable skills that they need in order to apply for internships, and how to practice these skills. And this is something that also I have a very good feedback from the students, because it's also bringing the job market to the classroom and gives motivation, right, to understand and being very reflective about what is that they learn when they are doing a lab.
Thank you, all the panelists, for bringing your expertise and your passion about being more mindful of, being more informed of what is the research behind how humans, we learn and teach. And we just want to leave everyone with final remarks, and I invite all the panelists to please share their insights in terms of what are their recommendations, if there are any challenges that they face, and what it looks like for the future. So if anyone wants to add beside what we have in terms of final remarks, please do so.
I will say initially students are not too happy about working in groups. But as they go through the semester, they learn these are people they can lean on. These are people that they get to know over the course of a semester. And I see a lot of them keep in touch after the semester is over, or they'll go do something together after class. And the evidence shows the more bonded the group is, the more likely they are to open themselves up to learning new perspectives.
And this is an experience that I can share, because I have teamwork during lab, right? And also team activities during lecture. There is a little bit of resistance to start a conversation, but as the semester progresses and they get to know each other, they recognize the value of communication and how they can learn from each other. So this is very valuable.
Yeah, and in my course, it is very important that students right now understand what they're doing in lab. It's not recipe anymore. They understand the target and they understand all the steps of the process.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
this
and
is
I think that just to kind of piggyback on what everybody else said, I know I went a little bit over in what I was talking about with my stuff before, so I didn't get a chance to really comment at all on the community itself. And I think one of the things that we were talking about before we started recording is that I've known Sheila's name for years. And Anna and I think, had one phone conversation and probably knew each other's name before. Monica, I had seen your name. Lyra, I had seen your name. But, here we are face to face doing a presentation together, right? And I was laughing because as we started recording, I got an email from my mentorship partner saying, hey, let's have a meeting soon, and we didn't get a chance to meet as much as we wanted to when we first started the community. So again, I'm getting this great professional development, and I'm feeling really positive about these changes I'm making to my courses, but it's also like just having that community. And it's, I can't express how much I appreciate it. And how I think it's a really, really good thing for faculty members to participate in. And, I hope that other folks recognize that as well.
Definitely invaluable to be able to talk this over with other faculty members in the same position and who are implementing the same learning techniques in their courses.
Yeah,
And to know that there are people that you can reach out, right, and ask questions and share experiences, there is a difference, right? So now we know each other. We are part of a community.
yeah, we can learn from each other and we can help each other.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. And I hope whoever is watching also appreciated the expertise that our panelists shared. We also have some selected references for professional growth, and we appreciate your time. And please stay in touch and reach out to us if we can help support you to become a more effective teacher and a learner. Thank you.
Thank you.